Tokyo area, which includes also Yokohama, and then in the west area, which include Kyoto, Osaka, and Kobe. And then there's Fukuoka in Kyushu, which is like kind of a west-south island, and then another place. So we have really like big startup communities all over in Japan, and especially in those 4 areas, focusing on really like a globally thriving startup ecosystem.
Fantastic. I was particularly excited that this year, again, we have that special partnership with Japan. We heard yesterday from Raina, actually one of the first AsiaBerlin summits was under this theme of connecting Japan and Berlin. Now tell us, how much of an easy sell was it this year to bring Tokyo to Berlin?
Good question. So last year was, let's say, the first year we did like a Japan forecast satellite. And there we had the first time minister from Japanese embassy and Mitsubishi Electric came. And also representative from a few different municipalities came. But they were mostly based in Germany somehow, from Frankfurt office, from Yokohama, also Kobe, they have an office in Frankfurt. And then there were like 6 delegations from Shibuya city, was kind of traveling all over in Europe, and then they found the time to fit in to come to AsiaBerlin. And somehow that started to also, developing and creating like a kind of like a butterfly bubble towards Japan. And yeah, so from Japan point of view, Berlin is known, they know the Berlin as a name, as a startup ecosystem, probably one of the top in Europe, but they really don't have a tangible idea of how ecosystem looks like, how lively it is. They are sometimes confused, like if we are speaking English in here, because they think, this is more like a German-speaking place.
Right.
So with the delegation to kind of educate people little by little, at the same time we are doing like webinar towards Japan. Thanks to COVID, by the way, that I started this webinar to Japan, introducing German startups just to test the water. And then one of the time, like we did this year, April, was with Raina and with Japanese Startup Ecosystem Association to really start connecting the ecosystem players together. So all in all came little by little towards, so finally the delegation. But it was difficult, to let Berlin know and also AsiaBerlin know.
Well, great that you made it happen. And again, that shows and underlines just the importance of this beautiful event. So there are ties now on a public level, but tell us a little bit on the private sector. I think you have some beautiful examples of collaboration, right, between Germany and Japan.
Yeah, so Germany and Japan, we all say that there's a similarities in terms of like industry-oriented, economic developments. And thanks to that, we have like, for example, mobility is one of the examples that it's going to be really like focused on like synergies. And we have a collaboration with the Drivery, which is mobility-related ecosystem as well as co-working. Now they are creating the program, the Drivery Japan, together with Yokohama, where Bosch and other continental and German companies are. So it's really exciting that we are doing this together. And thanks to really like AsiaBerlin, because I do this through another colleague of ambassadors, who is Timon.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Chika. And she's here with us for the whole day, so don't hesitate to reach out to her if you have any other questions, because we have to move on. And with that, and without further ado, I do have the great pleasure now to introduce here on stage, great hand of applause for Chika, for sure. With us, the Permanent State Secretary, Mr. Michael Biel, who is there from the Department for Economics, Energy, and Public Enterprises. Mr. Biel, the stage is yours.
Good morning, everyone. Is the mic on? I don't need a mic, I guess. Not enough for you. Just point it. It's a nice picture. That's Berlin. Ladies and gentlemen, friends of AsiaBerlin, good afternoon, Asia. Good morning, Berlin. Welcome to the second day of the AsiaBerlin Summit. I hope you had an exciting and insightful first day at the summit yesterday, and I hope you had a very wonderful nightlife in Berlin last night, this morning. Today, Many important topics will be addressed through a series of panels, workshops, and other interactive formats. You will be looking at common challenges such as mobility, environmental protection, digitalization, internationalization, equality from different angles and share different experience from Europe and Asia. The second goal of today is to get to know each other, to meet new people, to establish personal contact, and to set the course of collaboration. Building bridges between economies that are geographically and as well as culturally quite far apart is not easy. Therefore, as government institutions, we need to support programs and projects that facilitate collaboration across borders and continents. This is exactly what AsiaBerlin has been doing for the last 25 years, and all of us can be proud of that. After 25 years, we continue to see the need for such an initiative as we look further into the future. AsiaBerlin is the vision of a globally interconnected startup ecosystem in a globalized world, a vision that replaces the idea of a strong local ecosystems like the Silicon Valley. Our startup ecosystems are leading already. If you look at the investment figures in startups from last year, Berlin is one of the top eight locations worldwide with a financing volume of $11 billion in 2021. Bangalore, Shanghai, and Beijing are right in front of us, followed by Singapore and Jakarta. However, too many Berlin startups look towards Asia. Not too many. We'll go there one day. Not many Berlin startups look towards Asia yet, and likewise, not many Asian startups consider Berlin as the first place for international scaling, at least not yet. And that's where AsiaBerlin and our partners are there to help them to establish contacts and find their way around. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm particularly pleased that many representatives of institutions in Berlin and Asia are present today at this summit and support this cooperation. This week, we also welcome startups from Indonesia, Japan, Philippines, Turkey, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, and India, who will explore the Berlin ecosystem as part of the Berlin landing pad. Together, you will develop answers for urgent questions concerning our climate, our environment, our cities, our security, and diversity in a collaborative process. You will be discussing these topics this week in Berlin, in October in Singapore and Jakarta, then in November in Bangalore. We want to bring Berlin startups to these Asian hubs. Dear founders, we are looking forward to your applications. At this point, I would like to express a special thanks to all supporters. To the honorary AsiaBerlin ambassadors in Berlin and Asia, our many partners in Berlin, including the Asian embassies and the Asians in Berlin's startup ecosystem, as well as Berlin and federal institutions and ministries, our many partners in Asia, our sponsors and speakers, and all participants at this summit, our events and delegation trips. You are the pioneers to connect our ecosystems, uniting our best and most innovative people to develop answers for the pressing global questions. Ladies and gentlemen, have a great and inspiring week in AsiaBerlin. Unfortunately, I have to leave right after my welcome remarks due to other negotiations that got scheduled on short notice, so I won't be able to stay. Have a great day. Thank you for making AsiaBerlin possible. Have a great time in Berlin and enjoy this city. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Biel. And while I have some beautiful and kind helpers in my background to set up the stage for our next panel, I will already introduce our next topic here. So we are now going to talk about corporate innovation, the challenges and opportunities of collaborating with startups. And I'm not sure if you want us to stand or if you're gonna give us a little bit of chairs in a second. Fantastic. Well, then I'll just read up for you a little bit what this talk is going to highlight. You know, the question of how to accelerate digital transformation is kind of like the elephant in the room, right? And probably all of us have experienced that a bit in the past. So we're really fortunate to have two known corporates with us today, SAP and Bosch. They have a great track record, as you will see, on working together successfully with startups. And we also have two startup founders here with us. Because in theory, it's very, very easy, right? But obviously, there are a lot of pitfalls along the way, and we'll dig a little bit deeper into that. So with that, I would like to invite to me here on stage Mrs. Veronika Brandt. She is the head of co-innovation at Bosch for the startup Harbor at Bosch. Veronika, please have a seat. We'll make sure there's a mic just behind you. I would also like to invite Azadeh Gagai, director of SAP.io Foundry Berlin at SAP. Welcome. Please, absolutely. And I would like to invite Ian Hannigan, who is the founder and CEO of that Formation. Ian, please have a seat. And last but not least, Tijo Chalsani, CEO at Utpati. Please have a seat. This one is yours. Make sure that we have enough mics, or we'll just exchange mics. Yes, it's a great pleasure to be here with you on stage. You know, at WHub. Very quickly, Karina Bellin. I'm co-founder of WHub and Angel Hub. We work a lot with startups and corporates, and also organize and make programs of co-innovation. So I'm very much looking forward to learning from you what's very well working and some of the pitfalls we should all be avoiding. So I'll start off over here. I'm Tiju with you. Just give us a little bit more of your own background and tell us more about Utpati.
Yeah, hello everyone, good morning. Glad to be here. I'm Tejo, and I think I could be kind of representation of the AsiaBerlin thing because, of course, as you can see, I'm Asian. But yeah, been away from India for a while around the country, and then landed up in Berlin when we were invited by Startup Harbor to start our startup in Berlin. So we provide decentralized AI solutions for shop floor productivity, and we'll talk about what we do later, etc. But yeah, glad to be here. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you, Veronika. Tell us a little bit more about your own experience and then the program at Bosch.
Yes, thank you. So I'm running the Startup Harbor together with my fantastic team here in Berlin, Tempelhof, and we initiated this publicly funded accelerator in 2018. Meanwhile, we have finished the 6th cohort of startup acceleration. It's about learning, but it's also co-learning and co-innovation. So we always try to find the match between the Bosch business units and the startups to make sure that both sides can learn from each other, inspire each other, and support each other.
Beautiful, thank you. And maybe you two can share the mic. You have a mic, fantastic. So Azadeh, over to you. Please tell us a little bit more, especially also of SAP.io Foundry Berlin.
Okay, thank you very much. So SAP.io Foundries is one of SAP's strategic business units. We have been in business since 2017, and our main mission is to create a strong startup partner ecosystem around SAP. So basically, we are the unit in SAP that work with startups all over the globe. We have 11 locations from Shanghai to San Francisco. Proud that Berlin is our flagship cohort, which itself speaks about the ecosystem in Berlin that's important for especially this event that we are here. As SAP.io Foundries, we run startup programs. So it's not, I would not say it's a typical accelerator program, but it's more like a partnership program. We work with startups from early stage to post Series A, even Series B, given the maturity of the product and also the topics that they are active in. And our main goal is that to be able to come up with a joint go-to-market with the startups and basically support them scale and also stay very innovative as a big corporation that we are.
Beautiful, thank you. Ian, tell us a little bit more about the formation and yourself.
Happy to. Yeah, so hi everyone. I'm Ian. I'm from Ireland originally, as you'll probably hear from the accent. But I'm the CEO and founder of Formation. We're a Berlin-based company. We're accelerated by Bosch. We'll talk about that later. But we basically use maps to help companies be more productive, to control spaces, to understand what's happening inside those spaces, to organize teams and to organize the processes that happen inside the spaces. So my background personally is in product design. So I have a long background in designing different types of digital products. And I did my first company back in 2010 that was actually an Irish LTD. We were doing like a design tool, so it was a very different type of product completely, but very different journeys. But yeah, so anyway, we'll talk more, but really happy to be here today.
Yeah, beautiful. And hold on to the mic. So for all those who know me, I will always ask my panelists to start and kick us off with a bold statement about the topic. So Ian, what would be your bold statement about startup corporate co-innovation?
Yeah, it's a great topic. I think I would say choose the corporate you partner up with very, very carefully, and don't get crushed by them. They're very big, they move very, very slowly. You're small, you want to move really quickly as a startup. Yeah, there's a clash there, right? So watch for that. Don't get crushed by the elephant.
We'll explore that in a second. Azadeh, your bold statement.
This relationship can just easily end.
Okay, that's a good disclaimer. Veronica.
So make sure never to end with a startup theater. Make sure that it's always a win-win constellation for both sides.
Very beautiful, and we talked about that, right? Startups are not the elephant in the zoo, the other way around, or the monkey. Up to you, Tijo, your bold statement.
Yeah, my bold statement would be, do not have all your expectations on one big startup. Never.
Beautiful. So let's get a little bit, there's a lot of, watch outs here into the potential pitfalls. And Veronica, I'll actually start with the corporate perspective first. So what were some of the learnings and, the bit painful moments that you learned through the programs that you have started? You mentioned you're already in your 6th cohort.
Yes, so actually when the roles are not clear in the beginning, it's really difficult to navigate the collaboration, to navigate throughout the whole duration of the acceleration program. So we always are keen to have expectation management professionalized. I think it's difficult in the beginning, also for corporates, to tell what is the target relationship to the startups. Sometimes business units come and say it's for us being the enabler, for instance, providing sensor technology to the startups. So we see ourselves as potential future supplier to the teams. Some other more traditional business units, like in the industrial segment, they come in the beginning and tell us we want to be kind of a lead user of the startup, of co-developing requirements about features and being the first test user. So usually our plants are very open to become the customers for the startups. And sometimes it's just about co-learning, about being closer to the market, about understanding better the customers' needs, and the startups tend to be closer and faster when it comes to go-to-market. So in this case, it has to be really transparent from the beginning when onboarding the startup, what can they expect from this journey? Is it like a target customer relationship, or maybe even a partnership, where both sides then equally invest but also benefit from success? And navigating these different roles and making them transparent is kind of key. We had also some pitfalls where we hadn't clarified in the very beginning, and later on it turned out to be a trouble then.
I was going to say, we talked about that a little bit yesterday. It's like how to avoid basically that the blind are leading the blind, in the sense that, how do you manage expectations internally in the big corporate?
Yeah, so what we do in the beginning, before we scout for teams, we collect the focus topics of the business units and we publish them all on our website, knowing that this kind of is very transparent. And it was also difficult in the beginning to convince our business units to start formulating what they are really looking for. And we even have a template for that. So we always ask the business units to introduce themselves, to state what they are looking for, but also to state what the startups can expect, like how will the business unit support the teams. And that's kind of a best practice, how we manage to, in the beginning already, set a clear definition of roles.
Absolutely. So that expectation management, both sides, right? Internally and then also externally to the startups joining. Azadeh, over to you. So tell us a little bit of some of the maybe painful learnings.
I think Veronica and you yourself basically mentioned everything. And there are a couple of keywords there, stakeholder management. I mean, expectation management, I think, is the key in what we do. So because basically, if you look at the reality, everybody, even the big corporations, have been talking about innovation and working in the innovative, landscape, working with startup. But in reality, it has only been in the past couple of years that it got real.
Yeah.
And corporations started thinking of constructive ways of how to engage with the startups and basically either focus on innovation internally or basically seek partnership or co-innovation partnership. So that's why for all of us in this business, it has been new. One of the basically, as SAP IO, when we first started, we had this idea that, we want to work with really early stage, cool startups, innovative, cutting edge, bring them on, and that's what happened in the first 2 years, where we understood, okay, but the whole purpose of our program and basically engaging with the startup is to deliver that extra value to our customers. Right. And we can only do it if we can identify a nice use case and integration scenario of the startup solution in our own partner, in our partner ecosystem and in our portfolio. How can we do this? Then we figured out, okay, so engaging with really early stage startups might not be the best one because they don't have enough capacity, resources, human capital, and even, seriously, money to invest money in hiring really a lot of consultants to work with SAP integration, building the integration, delivering big projects to our customers. So for us, it was a moment that, okay, maybe with the model that we have in mind for joint go-to-market and partnership with startups, we have to focus on more mature startups.
Absolutely. So we talked about that, right? Actually, that was one of the key learnings. And you probably came more from a perspective of you had a solution, needed to find the problem, versus then, getting back to the point of, okay, let's define exactly our expectations, our problem statement. And also define the relationship and know, okay, so it's not just that you come to our programs and we will provide you with some nice workshops and collaborate, but it's actually business that we want to work together. And for that, we also need to make sure that the startups have a completely mature product. They have a first couple of enterprise customers so that we can also prove the value of those startups to our partners. That's why for us, there was a turning point that, of course, included some painful experience with some startups that are really cool, still in Berlin, but we couldn't really meet both sides' needs. So for us, the learning curve happened 2 years into the program, where we shifted our KPIs and basically came up with new strategy. Okay, fantastic. Well, now we'll invite the startup perspective to the table. Ian, so you mentioned why companies should not collaborate with corporates. If you can explain a little bit more in detail.
Yeah, well, I just think, I wouldn't say they shouldn't, but I think they just need to be really careful about how they do it. I think with startups, often money is tight, or, they might be running on a fund or that they've raised or whatever, and time is against them, right? So they're really in a hurry. They're trying to sign up customers. They're trying to prove concepts or prove the market value for their product. With the corporates, it's a complex political environment, right? So they're often, like I said it yesterday, but with Bosch, it's 500,000 employees, right? So you're talking about 500,000 people working in one company, right? So that's how complex and big it is. And to go in there as a little tiny startup, even as part of a program, and just expect, we're going to sign up all the deals and, it's going to happen really quickly, it's just not realistic. So I think as a startup, you've got to go in eyes wide open. You've got to work really hard at kind of articulating the value you can offer the corporate so they can sell that internally. So you're kind of playing a little politics a little bit and help them.
That's exactly the point I want to get to, but how dangerous is it? How much are you actually turning from being a startup with a clear vision and purpose to just becoming another supplier and just tweaking your solution to what the corporate is expecting you to do?
That's really, really getting to it there. Like the issue is, Veronica touched on that yesterday. Like if you have shared intellectual property, for example, what then, right? It's like super complex topic. So if you're not going to do shared IP, then you're probably doing some POCs together or something like that. We did several with Bosch. We were very, very lucky on that front, and we had a great collaboration with them. But the startups in general, you just really need to understand how you expect it to work, what value you're going to provide, how realistic that is and kind of keep a handle on that at all times, I think. Otherwise, people could get disappointed very quickly.
Absolutely, yeah, which actually comes back to vetting also the programs and the partnerships, right? Tijo, I think you shared yesterday also a few great learnings that we should pass on to every startup founder listening in the room.
So I just realized one more thing. As big as these companies are, there's also a churn rate in the position that you keep talking to. So there's one person you talk to today who you think, will take you to the next level, but in 6 months, they will change their position for whatever reasons, and this is harsh reality. So even though that's going to happen, you always need to be in touch with them so they can put you in touch with the right person that is coming next. So that is something that we learned the hard way, not particularly with Bosch, but with others corporates we are trying to start partnerships with. And another thing is that always remember that this is for them. This is just something they're trying, and for you, this is your lifeline. So you need to balance that really well. And if it comes to that lifeline, again, as I already said, right, just don't make sure that this is the only thing you're exploring. Always keep either in the corporate itself or in other partnerships you're seeking, that you keep your options open so that you can explore more. And if this deal doesn't go through, that doesn't mean that your startup, it's not there anymore. So, but for us, in terms of cooperation with Bosch itself, we were super lucky in the sense when we explained what we are doing to one of the business units, we got extremely lucky that they tried something similar solution from other companies, established companies, and they couldn't use it. So, and when we said, we do not take the company machine data out of your environment, then the business unit actually jumped on it saying, we want to try it right now. So that kind of accelerated it's like we're actually solving one of their core problems that they have, which is what made it easier for us to, get through the cooperation. And then it also meant that when we are so this is like, I'll give you an example, right? So we are actually the business unit we are working with. The head is in the US. He oversees different companies. Now we are actually working with the Czech manufacturing company, Bosch manufacturing company in Czech Republic, and simultaneously, we're also working with another Bosch manufacturing company in Turkey, right? So that's again, it has its own logistical issues where you're small team, 2 people, 3 people, but you're working with.
But once of a sudden you're a global company, or at least you have global customers, which is a kind of like a nice bridge over to an interest. If you build on what can companies actually on the positive side expect, right? So again, for you to make an informed decision, what can I actually on the positive side get out of that collaboration? How did you benefit?
Sure, yeah. No, I think if you approach it correctly, you can actually get a lot out of it. So in the case of, well, maybe one thing I should say first is, so I have a slightly unusual kind of perspective here. So formation, our company was accelerated by Bosch, but I also mentored on the SAP programs back in the day. So I mentored on 2 programs. There was the 1 Billion Lives, and then there was the entrepreneurship, the internal enterprise entrepreneurship program. So I've kind of seen both sides from 2 different angles as well. So, but I think with Bosch, we had some really good collaborations. One was with Arena 2036, which is the sort of workplace of the future. Right. That's the showcase environment for that. And we had really good cooperation. And we had AGVs represented on our map, moving around in real time and stuff, very, very cool kind of end result. And we were able to demonstrate a lot of value, and that was kind of recognized inside Bosch, and it gave us a really good kind of platform to talk about that publicly with other customers.
So is it correct to say on the one hand side it was really working in a real life environment, right?
Yeah.
Is the product useful? And the other one was actually visibility, awareness, so
right.
A lot of press coverage.
Right, and in that particular environment, Arena 2036, there's a lot of other corporates involved, so like BMW and all these other automotives and many other big companies are involved. So yeah, on the exposure side, it was kind of excellent, I would say. I think I would just say it straight. I think with Bosch, the team there they did a lot of intensive work with us, like week on week. It was very scheduled, and it was very much like, how are you doing? Like, we were setting goals, they were checking in on those goals. So they actually did a lot of work on us as well. When we joined, it was through the pandemic period. So the pandemic sort of kicked in shortly after we joined. And we actually managed to run pretty normally right up until kind of end of summer. But I think they were, some of it was remote, some of it was in person, but it was always very intensive. And what I really liked was the kind of very clear goal setting. So they were forcing us to set goals.
So even know-how and kind of like a drumbeat and making sure that you deliver on the KPIs, that's probably the corporate structure, right, that comes into place.
Right.
Maybe I can add on this,
Absolutely.
because that's another provocative statement, but it wouldn't have worked if we were a powered by accelerator.
Okay.
So making these connections was so much easier for our team, since we are sitting in the same office with the startups. They are day to day visible to us. They approach us, remind us. Like Tejo still has an office access to, although he has left already the cohort that was accelerated. And I think this proximity and being in touch with the employees of the corporate is actually differentiating as well. When I'm reaching out to colleagues for introductions, for mentoring, for expertise, I never get a decline. So usually they are open to support and give a hand, and I doubt that would work if I was not a Bosch employee.
Right. And so what is it concretely that you are expecting, or some concrete outcomes that you had? What were some case studies or benefits from startups?
Knowing that Berlin is investing so much in us and was so brave to put to put the money there and to also support a corporate launching an accelerator in the early phase, where usually the motivation of companies on doing on their own is not that high. Of course, this makes me track the numbers and the KPIs on the regional impact that is created. Mm-hmm. So for us, it's really one of the key outcomes is that 80% of the startups who have already left the program 2 years ago are still active on the market, which is a super high survival rate. So Absolutely. We track these numbers. We also track like how many employees are now working with the organization. So we see that we are contributing to growth, and that's basically perfectly in line with the Bosch values. And I think Robert Bosch was always like this, we need to support, we have to give back to the society. So right. I see this perfectly aligned with the values as well. And then, of course, we also track the internal numbers, like how many startups did enter a collaboration with Bosch. So of the 35 teams, we had more than 17 proof of concepts with startups. We have continued collaborations with more than 10 of these startups. And that's also the internal figures that show that it's not like a one-time effect, but also we are establishing long-lasting relationships here.
Great, and that was a little bit, and maybe Azadeh, you can build on what I was referring to. So success does not mean at the end you gobble up the startup or you just take over the solution and that's it?
Of course. For a lot of startups, when they start engaging with us, they are also looking at the point that, okay, maybe in 5 years, SAP will acquire us, so, which will be a big success for them, of course, but that's what we are not looking at, because helping them scale, meaning that supporting them and basically helping them design and basically work and execute on a nice roadmap, being a product roadmap or their go-to-market roadmap, I think is the key to our relationship. Because for us, what do we have for startups? First of all, what we have is we have really strong industry experts. We have people who know for example, at SAP, we have 25 industries. We really have people who know the industry in and out and have been working in the industry for decades, being a corporate, and many people don't leave, and they have been working with the biggest enterprises out there. So having access to curated mentorship on particular industries is extremely valuable for the startups. And it means that they really can check their product market fit, their potential customers, regional markets that they can be active in. What is the other side? Is that, I mean, if you're a startup reaching to doorstep of Coca-Colas of this world, BMWs of this world, is not that easy, but for SAP is not a big deal. So basically, us having hundreds, thousands of corporations and enterprises as our customers, it's a big value. It's basically our jewel box that we are opening to the startups and help them get access to our customers. Plus, we also support them with technical integration, give them access to SAP's platform where they can build their application on. So for us, this is what we can value to this. We can bring this value to the startups. And what's the other side? What can they do? They either have solutions that can fill a white space in our portfolio, or they have really niche use cases, niche innovation that can be used on top of any SAP system. So for us, getting their innovation into our solution portfolio, either as an extension or as a white space filling, is extremely important, because then we don't have to do the development ourselves on areas that we are not necessarily, do not have a strong legacy ourselves. On top, startups are really the best people to give us feedback on our technology and our platform.
I was going to ask, so you're open to feedback, right? So it's not only one way?
Asking him, how was it the experience of building integration with SAP? How do you improve this? Building integration with a customer with SAP, what are the challenges you have? Especially as a company like us, that we are also going through cloud transformation, it's extremely important for us to get really feedback from the people on the front line.
Absolutely.
So I think it's a win-win relationship. And also on the other side, why do we engage our customers in this whole process? What do they have to gain? First of all, we do the innovation scouting for them. I know a lot of our customers are also having, like Bosch itself, has engagement with startups and innovation themselves. But the value proposition of what we do as SAP is that we work with startups that can deliver out-of-the-box integration to the customers. So if you are a Coca-Cola and you're using an SAP system, you have an option to work with 10 startups who, I don't know, do trend detection on consumer behavior. So it's easier for you to pick a startup that already has an SAP integration, so you can also leverage your investment in SAP systems. That's why at SAP I/O we always call it a win-win-win relationship.
So that's the call to action, to come to SAP directly. Don't do the scouting yourself.
There you go.
All the pitfalls.
Thank you for doing this.
Well, actually, let's invite Tejo, though. I mean, is it true, or how much are these golden handcuffs? How free are you really tomorrow then to say, okay, you know what, SAP, I love what you do, but there's a competitor out there, and I think their systems are pretty awesome as well.
I really wish I could answer that question, because for us, right, we are not like integrating into Bosch ecosystem. Okay. We are like the other strand of startup where we are actually providing a service that Bosch needs, right, or any other manufacturing company needs. So honestly, I don't have an answer to that. And as far as our relationship with Bosch is concerned, until now, touch wood or touch plastic, whatever it is, it has been no handcuffs yet.
Okay, great.
No handcuffs yet.
I knew that would be the challenge today, to make these people, disagree with each other today. But Ian, what do you think? I mean, do you feel like you're in any way too channeled and not free enough?
No, I don't think so. No, I don't. That's not really part of the equation. I think maybe if you're going to be acquired, or you're looking to be acquired, or you're generating very kind of intricate shared IP or something like that, then maybe there's a sense of handcuffs. I think maybe there's a sense of loyalty to the relationship, right? So if you're kind of building a relationship, and you're building trust and over a long period of time, then yeah, maybe not so much handcuffs, but maybe
the Stockholm syndrome. No,
no.
Again, so I love it actually. I'm a bit provocative to get things out, but I think there was one more point that we talked yesterday, because Veronica, you said, if a startup then really evolves and is very successful to a point, you have different programs, right, to support. And we talked about, startup scouting, acceleration programs, but you also have a CVC. How much do you really talk to each other? So can a company think like at one point I'm ready for investment?
Yes. So when we launched our accelerator, it was a clever move to already reach out to Robert Bosch Venture Capital and invite them to be part of the jury, to also evaluate the startups who apply in our program in Berlin. And for me, especially having a program to to kind of transfer the startups to is really important. So we had this situation, and I think Tejo and Utpati is a great example for that, where they ran through the acceleration program, then incorporated, and then could immediately follow up with the Open Bosch POC process, and Open Bosch is a program run by Robert Bosch Venture Capital. So they were financing then the POC.
Okay, brilliant, fantastic. I think we're probably actually getting soon to the end. I just need a little bit of help here in terms of how many minutes we have left. But turning then to you, Ian, I think if you look a little bit, forward into the future. So, what are you expecting concretely in the next, let's say, 12 months?
So our company has been growing really well at the moment. We've been working a lot with the Cyber Innovation Hub, which is essentially the R&D piece of the German Bundeswehr. That's a really good case for us, and we're very excited about that. So we really hope to extend that partnership dramatically over the next 12 months. We're also doing a lot of work on our sales processes at the moment. So we're looking to increase the kind of rate of sales or the speed at which we can do sales. So yeah, that's kind of like our major stuff that we're focused on. The product is going really well. Like the types of use cases we can handle is kind of grown dramatically in the last 6 months. So we're actually on display here today. So the screens are outside, and there's those banners with the QR code. You can just scan that and actually use our product here. So we've set up this beautiful location here today, and you can try it out if you want to have a look. So that's Formation. It's on the banners outside.
It's super impressive. I saw it. I can all invite you to have a look, for sure.
So have some fun.
Absolutely. Azadeh, you mentioned 11 locations. What's next? You're going to double that, or you have enough locations? What's on the road?
It's never enough.
Okay.
With the number and the growth of the startups and the innovation out there, it's not definitely enough. We are growing in. We have actually very recently started the initiative for Nordics and also Latin America, and we are also thinking of Africa, because, I mean, we receive, for every program that we announce, we receive more than hundreds of applications, and we look into really, for some topics, thousands of startups, and we see the huge potential in some of the areas that have not been represented well globally.
Yep.
So, Africa, Latin America, Nordics are the areas that, at least from the SAP side, we can still engage more strongly, and that's the plan.
Right. And what about your coverage in Asia? Is there any?
We have 4 locations
now?
actually in
Okay.
Asia. We have Bangalore, Shanghai, Singapore, and Tokyo.
Okay.
And every one of them run 2 programs per year. So in the Asia
Beautiful.
region, we have 8 programs per year. So if you have a startup in the Asian region and partnering with SAP is on your strategic roadmap, and it's a strategic plan. Don't look at it like another accelerator. Really look at it as a partnership. Feel free to reach out to me or my colleagues, and we will be happy to engage.
That's amazing. I mean, the least you can learn is how to hustle, right?
Yes.
I'm gonna sign up.
Yes.
I think you missed one really important city in Asia, and I'll invite you to set up shop in Hong Kong, but we'll talk about that offline. Veronica, what's next? 6 cohort already, right?
Yeah, so two major activities planned on our roadmap. One is the internationalization. So we are running now the first international cohort in parallel to the Berlin program. And the other is to also improve the legal framework for real co-innovation. So where it's about IP sharing and about jointly developing solutions.
Beautiful. Which actually reminds me, there was one thing that we talked previously yesterday about the co-shared IP, etc. I think that's something I forgot to zoom into. I think it's an important point when we talk about the learnings that you had in also the contractual relationships, right, between the startups and Bosch. If you want to zoom in a little bit, because I think it's a very important element.
I think we all know about how to set up a paid POC, and we have the contractual framework for that already up and running, but it always says no IP will be generated as part of the collaboration. And we see cases where actually we want to even create joint IP in that relationship, and we have to now investigate more in the legal side.
Absolutely, yeah. And again, very, very much impressed how really sophisticated both of your programs are running. Teju, so for you a little bit, the crystal ball question or a shameless plug or call to action. So what's next?
What's next? So we are still a small team. We are just a team of founders. So, but now that we have enough traction, we are actually looking to fundraise. So yeah, if there is anyone interested in investing in a super hot Industry 4.0 startup, I'm here. But we're also currently working with other companies like Continental, of course, competitor of Bosch, but also having some talks with some machine builders in South Africa. So yeah, it's interesting times, and we are two people, to be fair, but we are working with so many different countries, and we are talking with so many different people in different regions. So yeah, expansion in terms of team is what we are looking for, and expansion in terms of customers, and expansion in terms of money. So that's what it is for us.
That's brilliant. I love it. Well, which actually answered part of the other question I had previously, right? So there are no golden handcuffs or whatsoever. Are you helping in the fundraising as well?
We got some introductions to some of the VC ecosystems,
Okay.
but RBVC is it's a Series A or later kind of investment. So we are not going there yet, since I said we are in pre-seed, right? So we need to find some strong local VCs or angels who understand what we do and want to partner with us.
Right. But what about SAP? Do
Can
you
I-
provide support? Absolutely. Go ahead.
I mean, we used
we
to
still
have
have time on-
SAP IO Fund.
Yes.
We don't have it anymore, and we only invest in companies that are really mature, and we have already have a track record of joint go-to-market and value. But what I wanted to add here is that, I mean, working with startup, oftentimes we get asked by them, can you please be a reference to our VC and investor?
Right.
Because we are a credible source to tell VCs how is the relationship with this startup going, what is the market potential with the startup. So for me, part of my job is actually going to call with VCs, not only make introduction to our VC network for the startups in the program, in our portfolio, but basically being a reference, a valid reference for the startups that we have been working with. So I think it's a good thing that you have been part of the Bosch, and I'm sure that it will help you.
Oh yeah, definitely. That's one thing we always say in terms of traction. So Bosch is already using us; they tested us. So
No, I fully agree.
more of
And
it.
having the investor hat on as well on Angel Hub, when we go through due diligence, always the first thing is you call up the customers and have a good conversation. One thing I was wondering though, that you didn't call out the concept of cohorts. We talk about supporting system while you're in the program. How much interaction do you actually have with previous companies from cohorts or international exchange, right, between your 11 locations? I know, Ian, practically.
We've been back a few times, so we've met all the cohorts that came after us. So and at various kind of events, and the contact's actually quite good there. So Bosch organized it quite well with mentorship coming kind of backwards from previous cohorts towards the newer ones. So I think that's really helpful. But yeah, we've met all of them. Yeah.
Beautiful, fantastic.
Yeah.
So I think we still have 30 seconds for like a last turning round here in terms of what do you think? How long until you make it to how do you define success? I don't know if we want to say unicorn, but how long? And we have the next Berlin unicorn here.
Well, we're definitely bearing down on it. I think we've expanded everything, the use cases we can cover. We're scaling the team. We're scaling the sales operations. So we feel really good about our progress. It's obviously never easy. It's always a climb as a startup. But we're actually kind of measuring how we're performing in square meterage covered. So we're kind of capturing literally territory at the moment. And we're doing well at that. So.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
And as a day, Veronica, I'll try one more time. Do you want to name one company that you particularly are proud of in your cohort? The next big success is going to come out.
I would like to take this occasion to invite you to join our demo day next week, if you're still available on 21st, because there will be great startups, including, I just saw Tom of Altihash, and that's also a very, very promising startup, and I think so we are proud of all of them, to be honest.
Fantastic. Brilliant answer, and yet you gave me a name. Thank you so much. As I didn't know.
Should I just
all of them?
copy
Yeah,
here?
you can.
Should I just copy here? No, I think no, I cannot. I seriously cannot do it, but we have great startups from all over the world in our cohort in Berlin because we work globally. They're all amazing, but also call to action. We
Yes.
have our kickoff of our HR Future of Work cohort in October. So if you want to see really cool 7 startups globally on HR, join us.
That is a beautiful call to action. And then, Tijo, how do you define success and when you will achieve it?
I don't know when, but for us, success is in 2 terms, right? One, for some odd reason, I also like to have like more people in the team. So once we grow our team to 100 people, that would be our first, say that would be the time we would call our first success. And the second success is in terms of how many machines we can actually connect and increase productivity. And that would be once we actually get to 10,000, right? That is when I would call success, first steps of success. And there'll be, of course, further. It's always a moving target, so.
That's so beautiful. We provided the visibility, he hustles for money and talent. That is just a wonderful ending. Thank you so much. With that, a big hand of applause for our brilliant panel. And can I invite you for a photo shoot, please? Thank you so much.
Thank you, Karina.
The photographer? Oh, the photographer has a quick bio break. Then maybe we'll just take it with the...
Mic check, 1, 2. Yeah.
Super cool. Wait.
Hello, hi everyone. Very good morning to all of you. I know we just got over with this amazing conversation, amazing panel of talking about partnerships. And now we are heading to another partnership, which is about our future, our sustainable future. What are we going to talk about and how we're going to talk about, we'll just share with you in a very short minute. But prior to that, let me tell you why I am here. My name is Saurabh. I am a sustainability professional and I am a climate change advocate. So how do you talk about climate change and not talk about renewables? Well, the simple answer is no. Excuse me, I'm sorry, it's quite distracting for anyone. I understand there are conversations going on. I'd really appreciate if you would like to step outside and engage in, I understand AsiaBerlin is all about conversation, but yeah, thank you so much, really appreciate it. Yeah, so as I was saying, that how do you talk about climate change and not talk about renewable energy? So the simple answer is you don't. Yeah, and that is the reason why we are here to talk about hydrogen, which is the most abundant element in the universe. But it is still very hard to sort of synthesize it and use it as an alternative resource for renewable energy. This is what we'll be discussing with one of our experts over here. I will just ask him to come on stage. But before that, we have a very small video from one of our AsiaBerlin ambassadors from Shanghai. And let's see what he has to say. Can we have the video on?
Hello, Asia Berlin 2022. This is your friendly neighborhood ambassador, Alan Cho. Give you a big shout out from Xiamen, the provincial capital of Fujian province. And I'm here attending the China International Fair for Investment and Technology and focusing my attention on looking at some of the best and the brightest hydrogen power companies in China. I'm actually at New Tech Beyond Time, which is a a testing facility that does a lot of testing for not just the traditional lithium-ion battery, but also hydrogen power cells. So let's take a look. Okay, so we're here with Andrew Tian, the marketing director at MBT. And so I want to let Andrew just tell us exactly how they're testing hydrogen equipment, hydrogen batteries, right?
Okay.
Power sources.
Actually, this is the smallest machine for the MDA test solution. First of all, we control the anode side and cathode side to control exactly how it works through our own design.
How much time does it take to kind of test a solution, a power cell?
Actually, it depends on the requirement from customer. Sometimes it's roughly an hour, but sometimes if you want to know how long it can work, it can last for 2 days or a week. We can test the endurance about the material it is. Yes, it depends on the requirement of the customer.
Okay, so NFT's smallest hydrogen power cell testing apparatus. What we're talking about here is a company that used to test lithium-ion batteries, right? So they're one of the bigger testing equipment companies in China. But now they've pivoted. They've sort of moved into the hydrogen space because of China's national policy on new energy, especially in terms of hydrogen power. So that's great. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I've been quite focused on hydrogen because I think that it is the sort of wave of the future, if you will, for us to look at how best to store the renewable energy that we're harnessing. So the storage capacity and the storage capability of hydrogen is what I'm interested in. So I'm setting up a fund, a dual currency fund, so that the requirement would be that we would look at early stage hydrogen projects in China and projects outside of China and look at how they can match up before we do the investment. So that would be my criteria, is if we are to look at the effectiveness of, to bring forth cooperation between Berlin, Germany, and Shanghai, China, in the hydrogen space, that we would look early enough so that we know that these fabulous startups and teams in hydrogen will be able to work together. So I think I've finally found the right exhibition center. So this is the China International Green Innovation Products and Technology Show. So it's a show within the show, obviously. So I'm at the China Hydrogen Alliance exhibition area. So these are the company in the alliance of hydrogen companies. Yep, quite a few. So what we're seeing here are the actual fuel cell membranes, conversion membranes, and the actual fuel cell itself that was used in buses. Here's some film, actually samples of the film, I guess. Yep, it's good. So it's in production. This is the motor for the actual buses. So not large at all, right? So we'll get the engineer to come over and tell us a little bit about how big the motors are. So a whole display area of hydrogen companies from across China as members of the China Hydrogen Alliance, so that they help with everything from R&D to localized help to make sure that they get the technology help they need. So here's another motor. That goes into a heavy bus. You can tell dampers on the bottom, right? And dampers. Probably another 100 kilowatt unit, probably bigger if this is new. And then power fuel cells. Thing called refire. Wow. So with this beautiful sunset, I just want to give my best to all of you at Asia Berlin Summit 2022 to have a very fruitful and productive gathering. Hopefully we can work together to really use technology and the resources that we have to safeguard our planet. Thank you. Congratulations on your 25th Asia Berlin Summit!
Thank you. Can we? Yeah. Okay, it's working. So thank you so much for that wonderful response. And now, we just saw that what's happening on the other side of the world in China and Shanghai, and how Alan is contributing towards an alternative source of energy. We all have heard about. Renewable energy in form of wind or solar, but we're talking here about hydrogen. And just to talk more about it, what's happening in this part of the world, which is Europe, I have Johannes with me. Please welcome on stage. Please, would you like to take a seat? Hi. So I have Johannes with me, and he's the CTO and the CEO of NEX. It is the first hydrogen-powered long-range eVotel. So we'll be discussing about the future of hydrogen with you, Johannes, and how it is proving to be, as I mentioned initially, that hydrogen is the most abundant element in the universe. But how is it? How are we looking at that this element is going to help us in our sustainable future? So what can you tell us about how global energy system works, and how hydrogen is a candidate for this to addressing this challenge?
Yes, is my microphone? Yeah, all right, yeah. So welcome, Saurabh, thanks very much for having me. So to your question, I guess if you imagine the future, we all know we have to stop burning fossil fuels. So keep the carbon in the ground. That's kind of the rule number one, and which means that in the future we will be only 100% using sustainable energy. And what became clear in the last 5 years, more or less, maybe even a bit more, is that hydrogen as an energy carrier and kind of for transport and for storing energy, sustainable energy is the perfect mix. And almost all big nations have announced their clear strategy to move towards hydrogen as a sustainable energy transport and storage source. And so that becoming clear, we now see also the commitment in the usage side. So how do you ideally use hydrogen? Ideally, you don't burn it. Ideally, you use it in fuel cells, because then you can convert it with a maximum efficiency back into electricity, compared to if you burn it, you are still ending up with some particles and some small amounts of NOx and other gases.
That's interesting. And just to share it with our audience, because we had an amazing conversation yesterday, because I had no idea initially. I knew about hydrogen as an alternative source of energy, but during our conversation, my mind was absolutely blown with what Johannes told me. So just to share with our audience, what is the byproduct that comes out of when you're using hydrogen in a cell? What is the byproduct that comes out?
Yeah, so in a fuel cell, you basically duct hydrogen into the cell, and you draw from ambient air the oxygen, and it combines towards water. So the only byproduct is purified water, which in many cases you can actually put to some secondary use. But so the good news is there's no harming gases or anything that is hurtful.
And that is so fascinating, where on one side, wherein we are burning fossil fuels and we are just pumping and we're extracting carbon out of the ground and just pumping massive amount of greenhouse gases, especially carbon dioxide. And on this side, when we are using hydrogen, we are just the waste product, or I won't even say waste product, the byproduct that comes out of it is pure water. and you can put it, as you rightly mentioned, you can use it in any other form. So tell me, why aren't we talking about this? Why are we, say for Elon Musk as an example, right? When now we've seen the use case of electric batteries in electric cars, right? Yes, I understand that there is a long way to go till we completely transition from burning fossil fuels to switching over to electricity. But why aren't we working on this technology that wherein there's hardly any byproducts or like any waste products that are coming out, unlike when we're using lithium-ion batteries?
Yes. So I guess it's the hen and the egg problem. So as long as we are not moving into this sustainable future with abundant availability of hydrogen, then it's a way harder step to say we will use it in mobility applications, for example, or stationary applications, because it is still relatively expensive to have hydrogen infrastructure if the hydrogen is not used abundantly. But since this is now becoming very clear in the way that money is spent in the whole hydrogen ecosystem for energy transport and storage, then that's a huge incentive for companies like ours to focus on the use of hydrogen.
Absolutely. Now, talking about the use case for hydrogen, could you share with our audience what are the major or the most popular use cases for hydrogen that we have, except the application of hydrogen as an alternative source of energy that you have in your initiative? We'll talk about it in a minute. But what are the general or the most popular use cases of hydrogen as an alternative power?
Yeah, so there are basically like stationary and mobile applications. Stationary applications are always interesting when you use it for intermittent energy use. So let's say you have a huge wind farm and you have intermittent wind energy. You can use electrolysis, basically the fuel cell running backwards, and you store the hydrogen, and then when you need the power, you can have it on site. From our perspective, using it for mobile applications in most cases is even more interesting. Because hydrogen can carry a lot of energy per mass compared to even the batteries that we see in 5, 10, 20 years. And so whenever you have an application in mobility where you need a lot of energy per mass, like in aviation or in trains, trucks, and so on, then that's a good idea to use hydrogen and hydrogen fuel cells. I might also say to kind of paint the picture between batteries, hydrogen, and what else. From our perspective, whenever you can get away with using batteries, use batteries, because they are a little bit simpler in the whole process, and they are good enough for most applications where range is not too much of an issue, like the passenger car. But for heavy road transport and for trains, and especially in aviation, hydrogen is the only real alternative to make it really sustainable. And yeah, that's our deep belief.
That's really interesting. Now you talked about mobility, right? So let's switch over to now we've talked about the usage of hydrogen in general application, right? I would like to talk about what Next is doing and how you're using hydrogen and how is it better from other alternatives that we have. Suppose, I know as a matter of fact, there's a company down south, I don't want to name names, there's a company down south from Bavaria, Munich to be specific, they are using batteries to fly these e-hotels. So how is it different? What is the difference that you guys are bringing into the table, and how are you, by using hydrogen as a source of alternative fuel, how is it different? What changes is it bringing?
Yes, so I guess there's nothing wrong with starting off with battery electric air taxis, as you will, so eVTOLs we call it in the industry. The problem is you will always be range limited. So let's say 100 kilometers, if you're really good, maybe 150, 200 kilometers, and then still the question, you usually need like 30 minutes reserve and so on. So as soon as you get to the point that we will probably not fly in the office every morning with an air taxi, but the real use case is connecting cities point to point, also rural areas, doing this non-stop, a direct line of flight, and doing it with less energy than ground transport, especially the train. Yeah, and this is what we can do with hydrogen fuel cell powertrains. And we are actually the first air taxi company to fully focus on the combination of air taxi and hydrogen fuel cell. The question is fair, and we get it a lot, is aren't you combining the most complex vehicle with the most complex powertrain? The answer is yes. That's maybe why no one started to do it and initially started with batteries. But at the same time, we came up with a very simple vehicle design, since we can carry about 2.5 times more energy per mass on board. And this, then we can keep the vehicle very simple, no tilting parts, nothing moving except for the propellers. Yes, it will have a little bit more drag, but we easily can overcome this with the usage of the energy we have on board, and then even fly longer and faster. So for us, long distance means 500 kilometers non-stop plus reserves at speeds beyond 260 kilometers per hour, and doing this in a sustainable manner.
That is super interesting. I mean, I'm trying to imagine it. It looks like a scene from a sci-fi movie, you know, that people are getting in the air taxis, heading to, beating traffic and everything else. Although it sounds good in theory, right? How do you? I would like to ask you, since you're working on this technology. First of all, it's been how long that you guys have been working on this technology, and how old is the company?
Okay, so the company is roughly 1.5 years old. That's when we founded the whole thing. We started on the concept almost 2.5 years ago, and that was literally on a napkin and at a beer. And then over time we realized, okay, we are onto something, and we shook down our concept and we built a MATLAB model to run the numbers, and it still worked, and we were asking ourselves, why is no one doing this? And then during that time, Airbus started to do their officially launch the hydrogen strategy for aviation. Rolls-Royce, MTU followed. ZeroAvia became a bigger startup in the scene for hydrogen usage for fixed-wing aircraft in aviation. And the national hydrogen strategies launched. So we saw a lot of lee wind to our idea, and we saw that we can probably bring an interesting, unique point to the whole design, since the team we started together has a strong background in electric aviation. My co-founder, coming from Rolls-Royce, had a lot of experience or has a relevant experience in series production with composites and the whole supply chain and the whole ecosystem. My background being a test pilot for battery electric and the world's first 2 hydrogen fuel cell aircraft. So I have seen what works and what doesn't, and where in the operation the benefits really can be. And with this and with the team we gathered, we started to then say, okay, how can we show that this is really doable? And that's when we started to build our first small prototype. So 2-meter wingspan, really small, crashed it a lot until it started to work. And now, since a few months, we have a flying prototype. We call it our 25% scale prototype. It is 4-meter wingspan, and it is standing outside. Yes, it also has its marks, since we are putting it through the paces. And yes, we are still flying it with batteries, but very soon with the fuel cell system of our technology partner, we will be flying it with a fuel cell, and we hope to be quick enough to still be the world's first air taxi, scaled air taxi to fly under fuel cell power.
Wishing you all the best. I mean, this looks very promising, what you've been telling me so far. But in terms of, as I said, that whatever you've talked about, I mean, from the ideation phase, by discussing it over beer and making the whole plan on say, a napkin, I think, how do you envision the future? Like, how long do we have? Because as a matter of fact, I know we see, I think just 10 years back, if anyone talked about electric vehicles running on the street, like normally it would sound, I mean, it was right out of sci-fi, right? But then how do you, because of course, how technology is evolving, it's always getting better and better, and there's an exponential growth, right? But of course, now the second challenge that electronic vehicles e-vehicles are facing is the infra. So I would like to talk a little bit about how hydrogen as a fuel faces challenges, or what all infra-related challenges would you face?
Yeah, I guess it's a twofold question. The one question is, what I heard there is, it's a very long technology path towards certification. And that's definitely true. We see roughly 8 to 10 years until certification for a human carrying version. And the good news is that compared to even 5 years ago, in Europe, it was really hard to raise risk capital, venture capital for deep tech, that especially in aviation, that takes a long time. People like to see revenue from an app within months and not years. This has changed, so now we see really good backing, and I think that is also backed by all the pension funds moving away from fossil oil and gas and so on, and the money has to go somewhere, and the amount of money you now get for developing the technologies we need for really becoming fully sustainable is there. And so now if you can show that you are developing meaningful technology, you are talking to investors in a proper manner. So money will not be the main constraint. It will mainly be talent, actually. We see a huge fight for talent here in Middle Europe, and it is becoming crazy. And this is why we are not moving to Bavaria, but that's a longer story, doing it here in the heart of Berlin, using the international talent. The second question regarding the infrastructure, that's a fair point, this egg and hen problem. We actually are talking with one of the startups here that is exactly tackling this early adopter problem, that when you think about even a fleet of heavy-duty trucks, and you want to start with a hydrogen fleet, you need the infrastructure from day one, otherwise you will not be happy. They are developing a mobile refueling station that is, you can put 2 or 3 on a truck, you put it to your depot where you have your logistics center like Amazon and so on, and you can refuel your trucks. Once it's empty, you swap it out. And this is what we will see in the beginning of the market, and then within 5 to 10 years of this emerging market, this problem will be more or less gone, because hydrogen will be abundant as a usual fuel station. For aviation, it is a little bit different, because you cannot hit the road and drive down the road to the next fueling station. So we know we have to make sure that if we start out with a network, we need at least 12 fueling stations at key hubs in Middle Europe. And then every second flight takes us to one of those fueling stations, you refuel. The good news is refueling is way faster, so you can keep the vehicles, in our case, flying longer during the day, and that makes closing the whole business case a little bit easier, since in the beginning we will only be allowed to fly during daylight time.
I'm pretty sure that will that'll turn out soon, as you rightly mentioned, that technology has its own way. My last question to you would be, I understand that as you were talking about VC, that there is no problem when it comes to funding, right? The major problem that you're facing right now is related to talent, right? So where do you, as you rightly mentioned, that there's a lacuna in terms of talent and how how are you attracting the talent to the company? And lastly, maybe let's continue with this question, and then I have something else in mind.
Yeah, so maybe I have to correct a little bit. It is hard to get funding. It's especially, compared to the last 2 years, then it was a very quick game, and money was literally thrown out to everything that looks sexy. Now the discussions become more technical again, I hope to our advantage. We still have to prove that we are not just building a hot air balloon or something that doesn't close in the end. Yeah. But if we are successful going through those stages, money will not be our main constraint. It will literally be the talent. And the question is, how do we attract the best talent in the world? And by the way, we now have a team of 7, and we already think we have a really world-class engineering team. And the solution that we foresee is, don't build a classical, in our case, a classical aerospace team, because the classical approach to design is evolutionary and very linear. but now that there's a convergence of so many new technologies that we need to get efficient, it's additive manufacturing and a whole bunch of others. And so you need talent from a lot of different disciplines working creatively together. And the rule number one is build a diverse team. Everyone says it, but it's really hard. And especially in aerospace and automotive, it is still also difficult to find enough women engineers, and that's why we are also encouraging STEM for females and more. It is becoming better if you now look at the universities, and we are proud that we have a few women in our core team, but it could be more. We see that teams with women in it tend to take decisions differently and more creative decisions. And so part of the answer, I guess, is engineers especially, but we also have an amazing industrial designer and some other people like to solve hard problems, and they deeply enjoy it. And we see it in our team. We especially are looking for people that have hands-on experience, so really hardcore engineers, really good at it, but at the same time having experience bringing hardware to life early. And almost by accident, we built, to the best of our knowledge, the world's largest 3D printed flying aircraft right now. And we built it in a very short time. Yes, we crashed it in between. We rebuilt it here and there. And we changed the nose since we needed a longer integration volume and so on. But it's a lot of fun. Not always, to be honest. Not always, but most of the time. And once the team and we feel that we are really developing something meaningful, then it becomes worthwhile.
That is super interesting what you just mentioned, and it's interesting that you talked about diversity and inclusion in terms of not just everyone is talking about it, right? Especially in Berlin or Europe. As a matter of fact, I know companies, especially startups, they're very inclusive, and this is one topic that I'm very passionate about. I'm going to do a very shameless plug-in. I'm also a podcast host of a podcast which is focused on primarily on women entrepreneurs who are using technology and addressing sustainability. So I think I absolutely support that point that yes, by not just including women in decision making or say in the product designing or the product manufacturing side, it just brings in diversity, more varied ideas, right? And yeah, on that note, I would just like to say, do you think there's anything else? Because I think our time is almost over. I mean, I didn't even get to know that we have almost reached the end of our conversation. Is there anything else you think from this perspective which will be important for our audience over here or people watching us online? It'll be important for us to know.
Yeah, during our journey, if one thing that we've learned is we need more collaboration. No one can do it on themselves, on their own. There's still sometimes this old competitive spirit that companies like to hold everything close to their heart. I think nowadays is almost useless. If we are honest, if you file a patent, for example, it's getting copied worldwide faster than you can look. And sometimes it's even more important just to move fast, be honest, and search collaboration with other teams that are striving for the same. This is what we are doing, and we are looking out for collaboration and for building something meaningful. And yeah, that's it.
And thank you so much on that note. In case anyone is interested or in this amazing technology, or if you are interested in knowing how this whole amazing technology that Johannes is working on, the station is right outside, and there's a massive prototype which they've kept. So please have a look. And in case anyone would like to, how can people reach out to you? Is LinkedIn a good option, or how people can connect with you? Or
yeah, via LinkedIn. Right now at our booth, and you can find more information via nex.aero, and yeah, just find us.
Great. Then thank you so much, everyone, for paying attention, and thank you so much, Johannes, for being here and sharing your valuable insights. And I know there's a long way to go while we transition from, say, burning fossil fuel to switching over to using hydrogen as an alternative energy. But I am pretty sure that having innovators and leaders like you in the field who are constantly working towards addressing these massive issues that humanity is facing, I'm pretty sure we are heading in the right direction. So thank you so much for being here, and thank you so much everyone who is also joining us online. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you. Have a wonderful day.
test. Hello, everyone. Great being here. Welcome to the AsiaBerlin Summit. I have the pleasure to sit today with Florian and Anna, and myself. I will shortly introduce all of us. The panel that we're starting is on metaverse and creativity. So we will have like a 20 minutes conversation on understanding what's the metaverse, what are the values around digital community, and what's the future of the metaverse. So Anna is the CEO and co-founder of Yuna, B2B SaaS multiverse platform. And Florian is a serial entrepreneur with 10 years building blockchain application and with heavy data background, and is currently building an open source metaverse. So welcome on stage. I will kindly ask you to introduce your projects.
Okay, should I start? Okay, hello, I'm Anna. Thanks for the invitation. I was a designer for over 15 years. I had my own fashion label and I worked also in Zalando as a stylist, and then I decided I don't want to work more as a designer in this industry like we work. And it's all manual, almost not digital. Only 20% of the companies are working holistic digitally. So I started to learn coding. I started to program a software which transformed sports data into designs. I thought it's nice to have, but I wanted to change the back end of our industry. So we founded Yuna. We built research groups to have a look how artificial intelligence can do that. And then we kept going now with transforming 2D designs into 3D designs, which is very important for the metaverse, because if not, we cannot enter. And working with brands like Gary Weber, Vaude, and of course, my goal is to change the big players and to change the back end and also the way how they sell and the way how they produce. I mean, in this case, product creation in digital wise and also digitally producing and entering in new revenue streams thanks to metaverse we have now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This is I can talk very loud. It's not a problem without a microphone. Shall I just here we go. That works fine. So yeah, thanks a lot for having me as well. My name is Florian Krüger. Like I said, thanks for the introduction. We set out. So I have a background in business and then a second background in business IT management. From Boston, where I then also now chair the International Society of Chief Data Officers in Europe for quite some time. And as such, you get automatically exposed to the whole blockchain topic, to crypto, to all these areas. And since the metaverse is now basically the new internet, so explain the metaverse in 30 seconds. It's a bit, it's not a TikTok thing, right? You need a little bit more time to explain it properly. But it effectively, we set out on that journey because we said, we've been around in 2000. We've seen the errors being made already in the 2000s when, you know, the big data players then came in from the US and took over and left us with a whole lot of shenanigans here in Europe. And you know, all the usual challenges that arose from that, including fake news and what have you. And we said, we can do this better. We're going to create an open community. We're going to create an open source solution that fits really well with the whole decentralized ethos, where you have different value streams, different value chains, different kind of accountability. And that's why we set out 6 months ago and started the race 2 months ago. So we're right now in a, we're in a, not just pre-seed, we're in a proper seed stage right now. And we're investing a lot in technology, in the building of communities. And yeah, that's where we currently are.
Awesome. Thank you, Florian and Anna. Shortly, just because I forgot to introduce myself at the beginning, I'm Gianluca, and I run a Web3 engineering studio between Berlin, Lisbon, and Zurich. And for the last 2 years, I've been curating digital art exhibition. So we've been experimenting a lot with we've tried like physical exhibition, but also digital exhibitions. We've experimented with different metaverses. We've seen like in the last 2 years exploding many different platforms, many different communities jumping on different platforms and running different events. So the metaverse is, as you mentioned, Florian, is very old topic in a way that we had the Sims and other like games where you can just explore around. Habbo, there are like 10 years ago already a lot of different applications. So now like we're seeing that there are more and more platforms. I would like to ask you, what's your take on the future of the metaverse? Meaning, is it going to be just one main platform, or is it going to be one platform that is interoperable and communicates with all the other, or we're going to have different islands and silos where people can navigate through?
Do you want me to start? Because you also have an opinion probably on that. No, I think first of all, it is the metaverse, not the metaverses, right? There is not a plural. There's not multiple metaverses. That's rubbish. There's also not multiple internets, right? There's one internet, there's one metaverse. There's various metaverse applications. And the challenge right now that you have is very similar to the challenge you had in 2000s when you had the AOLs of this world come and try to do market grab, land grab, and try to be the proprietary solution providers that put you in a silo. We have the same thing right now, even with Decentraland, Sandbox, and the usual suspects. You have always people that try to get you invest into their solution. And I think the answer to your question, how it's going to be solved, in my opinion, is going to be on a protocol layer, where you have one common denominator that sits on the bottom that is interoperable, and then you have your various applications that sit on top, and the ones that will be interoperable and will allow for transferability of assets and of people and make it easy for people to go from A to B to Z, depending on what they want, whether they want something that is pixel streaming, looks like real life, or whether they want something that's just good enough for that business application, the business meeting that they have. But that protocol layer will solve it, and the applications will need to then fall into place in order to work, right? And that needs to be in open source standards and interoperable, transferable, in my opinion.
I would have said the same, and I think there will be different applications for different themes, for example, fashion or whatever, and it will be like a very multi-player background. It will be like now with the internet, it will be with metaverse, but with different topics.
For fashion, you would want to have something Unreal pixel streaming that looks really cool, right?
Yeah.
On the business side, you don't need that heavy load. You don't want to download something.
Yeah. Also, avatars for fashion, you need special avatars. We are testing now different companies, but you wouldn't need that for business or for cars or whatever. Yeah.
Right.
So then every application will have his own platform, and it will have his own community, right? My question, and then is very challenging to nurture a digital community, like we've seen in the last 10 years with the era of social media, and we've seen like certain practices, but I believe that now moving to more decentralized approach and moving like to metaverse interaction, digital interaction, this is changing. So how are you tackling this challenge? How do you grow your digital online community? And where do you see the differences from the last 10 years in running it?
I see it also theme-wise. We, for example, creating our community around fashion, big companies, innovators, startups in fashion. We bring everybody together. We founded Universe, bringing like a metaverse application to them to test, to educate them. So we're building like the fashion metaverse community, for example.
So you're basically creating fan clubs of sorts, right? I think the main error that most metaverse application providers currently made is that they were designed as backwards. They were basically designed for businesses. But I think the way you need to design those things is you need to create a social fabric, an area of common interest, for example. Say, for example, something out of the arts and culture area. Then you need to think about what really attracts people. Say, for example, as a next step, education, that you then educate people, that you allow them to understand how that works, that they can design their own clothes, that they get certain skills that they will require for the metaverse. Then you focus on the inherent motivation of the individuals, of people, right? So they want to meet somewhere, they maybe want to have a family gathering, they want to have very normal things which they don't want to code, they don't want to program something, they just want to go and click somewhere, and it needs to be super easy. And once you've got that, then you have a community, then you got traction and traffic, and that's an organic thing. And then you can start thinking about how you then include the business, the bigger business. But most companies did it the other way around. They first approached businesses, and then they were wondering why their spaces were empty.
Yeah, but I also think it's not right now. We have like the C-level of the companies have their community, and every part of the society they have their community. But I think we should mix it up, and that's why we are trying to bring everybody for the space in one community.
Yeah. Which is super important.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, it's super interesting that they take first business and then community, or community and then business. We're also seeing in the last years the rise of DAOs and decentralized autonomous organization that so pretty much collaborating on creating the same incentives and organizing individuals towards a common goal. And we've seen also NFT communities, right? So we've seen many projects launching their own NFT collection, and whoever has this NFT badge then is part of this community. Do you have a take on this approach about the NFT part? So seeing NFT as a connection with the metaverse, as a community membership, or do you see just an art approach?
I can talk about it forever.
Me too.
It's okay if I just start. I think non-fungible tokens, they were super overhyped, right? And then you saw this Bored Ape monkey crap that went belly up because they were a bunch of Nazis, effectively. That didn't work out very well, and that actually did huge harm, right? And luckily that hype died down a little bit, and now it's become more realistic. I think NFTs are super relevant, and they're super important in order to allow creators to continuously tap into the value chains, where they usually only were able to sell a song, a picture, a design once. They're now able to actually take ongoing royalty, so really making the big studios, taking the middleman out, making the big studios irrelevant to a certain extent, just in the help of the creation, the minting and that stuff. So I think they're super, super important and relevant, but they've been overhyped, and I think now we're getting into that, that when you look at that hype cycle, now we're getting through the valley of despair, we're getting to the real adoption and the real use cases.
Yeah, it's actually also a sustainable importance for our industry. I mean, we are in the beginning, of course, energy and everything, and we have to count that. But for our industries, like, they create one digital sign and they can sell it 1,000 times, and they have new revenue streams, which is not physical and wasting water and materials and chemistry.
Taking on the revenue stream part, right? And coming back to businesses, building on the metaverse and integrating communities, we're seeing also a different approach for Web3 businesses running their business, right? Because it's not anymore revenue oriented. It's probably like there are new values coming in, new principles coming in. So maybe, Florian, I wonder, like, in building an open source metaverse, how do you plan to sustain the operational part of the business?
That gets very technical very quick, right? Then you're talking about market making, you're talking about OTCs, you're talking about payment rails, you're talking about financial mechanics from the old world blended together with financial mechanics from the new world that then work and basically run the underlying system, right? Without actually interfering with the business economics of the top level of the applications themselves. So you basically create an open source community that works in decentralized fashion via the DAO, that then is supported by traditional and modern financial mechanisms blended together. Mm-hmm. We can, again, talk about that at length, but I think that's pretty boring for 90% of the people.
Yeah.
Revenue streams.
Sorry?
Revenue streams.
No, maybe also looking at the coming back to the community aspect and the values part. Anna, in your community, what are the main values you're bringing to grow and nurture your digital community, and what are the channels that you're using as well?
Well, we working with bigger companies. We are not using Discord because they didn't arrive yet. But we see we have to bring them from Web 2 to Web 3. It's a lot of education. But our importance is that they see the value, that they see that it's more sustainable, that they see that are new revenue streams than they had before. That's the revolution for our industry, actually. Can be more profitable with less waste. Yes, and the value is for us to bring everybody together. The C-level of the companies, the innovators, the creators, students, startups, everybody together and talking. And even we're looking now, we have these rooms now for conferences, but we're looking now for different rooms for conferences, more like for being together and having network and talking. Yeah.
So of course it's important to have real clients with real use cases. You're absolutely right. So that fuels the whole thing. Otherwise it doesn't work. But the nice thing is now we can, the stuff that we've been talking about, I don't know, 15 years ago, prosumers, co-creation, creating different value streams. It's not just value streams anymore, it's value spheres, it's multidimensional, right? And it's actually not just down to a company, but everyone can basically become their own Web3 endeavor, right? And you can recreate things like the cottage industry in the UK, which used to be a very distributed set of multiple entrepreneurs that then started to work together and worked well together, right? You can recreate that digitally through the use of IoT, 3D printing, open source access to data, and all these things, right? So now it's coming, all of it is coming together. It's got this label of metaverse right now, but it's actually starting to really work well.
Yeah, and in the metaverse is now allowing creators to have infinite possibilities, right? So the creativity aspect of pretty much inviting artists or any kind of creator to express themselves and have so many technologies that they can plug and express through by creating art or by bringing up a new kind of concept and expressing them in new ways. How are you supporting in the future with your vision the creativity, like the empowering creators?
Of course, I mean, and what I also believe that small creators in Web 2, for example, they wouldn't have a chance. They can have a chance and they can be successful in Web 3. And even I think that all the status of the companies now, it will change. You will have a change, and small creators can be more successful than bigger fashion companies in our industry. And this is amazing.
So to answer that question as well, how do you do this, right? This is all about inclusion. The biggest challenge that we're currently facing is that 3D immersive tech is still very high tech. So therefore, you sometimes need a lot of gear. You need VR glasses and stuff. So if you talk about other countries, other areas, and how you actually include them as well, because you got huge talent in Asia and Africa and other places, right? That's currently untapped and that doesn't always have access to the metaverse because they don't have the technology. The answer to your question is you have to make it as darn as easy as possible, as low code, no code as possible, and low bandwidth, simple computing, no power in the GPUs. Right, so it's a technology problem right now. I don't know whether everyone's going to be on Starlink at some point in time for internet access or something like that. But that, I think, is the key. Right? As computing power increases and gets less and less expensive, we'll be more and more inclusive, hopefully, and be able to then tap into that global community of talent.
So, thinking about really the future, do you foresee people walking like with their AR glasses, or do you foresee like, I don't know, people in their home like with their VR glasses interacting with their friends? What do you think is the main technological, like the most dominant technology in the 5 years time? What's your take? It's just brainstorming on.
I would like to have VR classes which are very small and like normal classes, then I can imagine that we can use it. We tried it already, we're working with that since 2017. We tried different things, right now it's not working. We are more going for augmented reality. It's easier to blend both worlds, but that would be my vision if every classes could have the possibility to enter wherever you want.
On the business side, I think AR is pretty cool because you can then just basically blend physical and virtual reality together, right? I think that the biggest innovation will happen hopefully around personal data though, and privacy, right, and security on that level. And if you're able to then actually move around in real life or in virtual life and to have, through a combination of public-private keys, the possibility to define exactly what you're going to share with whom and how and why and when, and are also able to then monetize on that potentially if you want, right? That to me would be the biggest innovation even before AR, VR, XR, etc.
Yeah, I definitely foresee public social layer of augmented information that will pop up. So pretty much we will be able to plug in. I mean, there are already some experiments of companies that are placing advertisement on the moon, right? Their geolocalize on the Eiffel Tower, some advertisement, but they run their own layer. So the question is when we will get to a public social layer, like how do we control the displaying information? So we're going to walk out, and if we do not manage to curate the public layer, we will be overwhelmed with information and pop-ups from different companies. So coming back to this decentralization aspect, right? Because if one company takes control of this public layer, then the company will decide what information we will be seeing with our AR glasses. In a public, like in a decentralized way, it needs coordination, though. So my question is, how do we, like we've mentioned DAOs already, but what are the best tools to coordinate and incentivize communities right now?
Good question.
No, that's the million-dollar question. Absolutely right. There is no DAO out there currently that's working. No. Right. So not a single one. The idea is fantastic. Give the power back to the people. Let them coordinate themselves, organize themselves. Well, reality is that not everybody is fit to actually, have an opinion in a system that is rather complex, because again, it's not a 30-second problem, right? It's a problem that you really need to think through. It's a very deep philosophical questions, and like accountability and who's allowed to decide and those kinds of things, right? And it'll be, I think, still 3 to 5 years before we see the first DAOs working properly, right? That would then be the answer, I think, to a part of that. And in the meantime, we have to see what the rest of the world does in the political systems and where they put us with fake news, deep fakes, and what have you, and how this is going to develop, right? And then, how we can take control back from our own data. And I think that's super important, because if that's all in Meta's hands at some point in time, then we're screwed anyway.
So it seems that innovation from in the metaverse field will probably first come from corporation rather than from community itself, because I see that there's a big corporate side that is, of course, investing a lot in research and development and creating AR glasses and creating layers and running servers to run all this information. And they see the open source community, the decentralized community that can go way faster, but there's a coordination problem to get there. Do you agree with this statement?
Kind of, yes.
I think it'll be use cases like yours, like fan clubs, groups, use cases.
Education clubs or something like that.
Yeah, that will create their own communities that will then bond together and create that community, that bigger community. I think that's going to be super valuable. I don't think that we're going to see the bunch of innovation from the big corporates. I don't think so. They'll always try to control and manage it, rather than distribute authority and give it over to the decentralized system. And I think it's going to be super important that we manage that, and we're intending to manage those and coordinate those groups so that they can actually then bond together and create a better future.
And with this last sentence, we're closing the panel. So thank you so much, Anna. Thank you so much, Florian. And thanks, AsiaBerlin Summit. Hope you enjoyed.
Yep.
Hello, hello, hello. Hello, good morning, everyone at the Asia Berlin Summit. It's great to welcoming you to the next session. I'm super excited, and it will be a very special session. It will be a complex session because we go to China, we go to Asia virtually, and we're doing even some opening ceremony together. So stay with me. My name is Timon Rupp. You can see me here. I'm the founder, CEO of The Drivery, building a global ecosystem for mobility innovators. And global means we started in Berlin with our flagship here with something like 140 startups and companies under one roof. But now we head towards Asia. So that's the perfect place to be. And you know, Asia, and especially going to China, there is some shadow, but there is also light. And today we want to talk about how to foster cooperation, networking, and even innovation in times of crisis and times of challenges. And I think with opening the Drivery in Shanghai today together, that's a sign that it is possible and looking into a bright future together. Let me show you a little video, because we cannot be there in Shanghai today, but just to give you a little impression what we are doing there and how we drive innovation mobility for a better future, now also in Shanghai. That's Schofield. He's the managing local representative. He come. We have no tone.
位在中国的运营。今天呢，就让我来为大家介绍一下这个源自德国的移动出行领域里最大、最富活力的一站式创新平台吧。Let's go！
2019年发展至今，我们已经拥有超过750多个会员，共有超过130家专注移动出行的创新公司入驻，并且 Driver 现在在柏林、上海、横滨及瑞典都拥有办公场所，也策划和举办了超过100场的活动。作为空间来说 ，Driver 有着功能齐全的办公环境，开放互动的社交区域，例如你可以在这里找到弹性固定办公位、不同规模的团队工作室、创客车库、媒体室等等。社区 Driver 的创新生态系统是开拓性的，我们将生态系统中的各个角色 Driver 拥有丰富的活动举办经验。会员不仅可以参加 Driver 组织的活动，我们也十分乐意帮助会员举办自己的活动。我们的团队将协助有意向的会员走向欧洲和日本，利用我们在这两地建立的网络，帮助会员低风险、更快地拓展海外业务，并进行深入的行业对接。Driver 拥有广泛的会员基础，从主机厂供应商到行业协会，可以帮助会员在社区内进行业务对接、合作对接。Driver 进行全球布局，我们深挖不同地区对移动出行的需求，让 Driver 更好地服务会员，有针对性地进行开发，去制定创新方案和对接市场需求。作为一个垂直类的创新平台，也受到其他行业玩家的关注，各类跨界交流不断。而作为大企业，加入我们的生态系统，不仅能同样享受到上述权益，很可能会获益更大。Driver 的会员涉及到移动出行领域的各个层级，能够让企业的需求得到快速的响应，资源形成无缝的对接。尤其对于大企业来说，增加您直接接触外部初创企业的机会，推动内部创新的改造或想法的落地。同样可以在外部创新公司里寻找到合适的创新伙伴。我们目前正在与国内的主机厂和国外的 Tier 1开展密切的合作，并且在后续会开展一系列的活动、讲座、研讨会、企业路演等等。到场的会有 OEM、Tier 1及投资人等，真正打造属于移动出行领域的未来，塑造可持续发展的生态系统。未来出行有你有我，就像我们一直相信的 Together Stronger。
Actually, it's my employee number 1 in Shanghai. I've never seen him. I've never been at the place. It can be deep fake, I don't know. But I think it's real, and I trust the team locally, and I think that's one of the conditions to move on, to have trust in the local team, and then we can make things happening. Thank you, Schofield. Now, I'd like to discuss a little bit. I have a very big honor to have some very great ambassadors for cooperation between China and Berlin on the stage. One is Rainer Seider. He is please a little bit applause for Rainer. He's the head of Unit International Affairs and working directly with the governor of the governing major of Berlin. So thank you, Rainer, for being here today and foster cooperation with Asia. I think you are also, of course, I don't need to say, one of the fathers of the AsiaBerlin, or the father of the AsiaBerlin Summit. So great to have you on stage. But it's also a great honor to have in person, and yes, it's possible, Mr. Dong Tao as the chief representative for the Shanghai Municipal Commission of Commerce and also for Invest in Shanghai. Applause for Mr. Dong Tao. Oh, you can go here. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, do you have microphones? Yes.
No, yes.
Yeah, maybe, I mean, we heard it about, it's a difficult time to foster cooperation, to drive innovation together. But I think there is also opportunity to overcome and do it anyway. So maybe you can a bit explain from your perspective what is important in that kind of times, and maybe how also from political side you're representing governments on how you can support entrepreneurs like us, our members, to cooperate going forward. Maybe Rainer, you want to?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think it's a very good activity today. So that's what we can do. And anyhow, the Drivery Shanghai is in Shanghai, so we could not bring it to Berlin. But unfortunately, it's very difficult nowadays to travel from China and from Berlin to China, which is really problem for the Berlin economy. And as you know, China is Berlin's second biggest market after the US, and so we have an office in Beijing. So we have great stakes in that country. But unfortunately, due to the fight against Corona in China, physical traveling is getting still quite difficult, and especially last summer when Singapore opened up its quarantine policy, that was a big step in Asia, and now nearly all Asian countries are quite open for traveling, and we have 40 people at the summit who are coming from Asia to Berlin for the summit, but no one from the People's Republic of China. So I think it's a tremendous need to meet physically again. But of course, we use what we have. So you have your drivery soon, not yet, and we have our office in Beijing. It's quite active, so we try to support companies from Shanghai, from Beijing, from China to come to Berlin or to have business in Berlin and vice versa.
Yeah, thank you, Rainer. Jiaodong, do you have thoughts from the other perspective?
Okay, yeah, thank you. My name is Dong Tao. I'm the Vice President of Invest Shanghai and also the Chief Representative of Shanghai Municipal Commission of Commerce and Invest Shanghai office in Frankfurt. Actually, my business covers the whole Western Europe. So I'm very happy to be here, and also to tell you the truth. I feel also very lucky. I came here in the middle of March this year. After that, we experienced almost 2 months lockdown in Shanghai. We had some hard time. But one thing I want to tell you, business almost as usual, especially after January. Now everything is picking up. I'm confident the flight will resume gradually. Actually start from 16th of September. More flight will resume between Shanghai and Frankfurt, China Eastern, Air China, and also Lufthansa. They will have routine, gradually resume their routine flights from middle of this, just 2 days time. And also I hope business will recover very soon between China and Europe, especially between Shanghai and Germany, because we really have a very special economic cooperation. We have Volkswagen, the largest factory of auto building in China, and also we have a lot of German companies. They set up their operation in Shanghai and set up their homes in Shanghai. One thing I want to tell you, driving in Jiading, that town, that place, in Shanghai we call it a German village or German town. So many German companies and also families, they are living there. Okay, maybe I can later on explain more about...
Maybe it's a good timing because you're talking about Jiading. And we have a little video prepared showing Jiading, the German town, and we have a little greetings from the government there.
Okay.
I think maybe we can play the video shortly to give everyone an impression what we're talking about.
Okay, thank you.
Video go.
Hello everyone, my name is Grace Lee and I'm from Shanghai International Automobile City, SIAC. First of all, I would like to thank Timan, ABS and Drivery for the kind invitation of the event. As a leading industrial base in Shanghai, SIAC has gathered auto manufacturing, R&D, tourism, sports, and other many functions with a planning area of over 100 square kilometers. As a core bearing area of the Shanghai automobile industry, SIAC has gathered more than 3,300 OEMs and other manufacturer parts and over 100 R&D institutions in Shanghai, China. relying on the first electric vehicle international pilot city and first China connected and intelligent demonstration zone. The first Shanghai Automobile Software Park was established and approved by the Shanghai government in November 2021, which was the first industrial park focusing on the auto industry. The driveway is located at the core center of the software park, where you can have easy access to multiple functional supporting facilities for nearly over 30,000 talents in auto industry and over 100 autopilot companies. On behalf of the Shanghai Automobile Software Park, I would like to invite leading enterprises, unicorn companies, and more talents in the software park, in the software area, to visit us and visit Strively and start your new career and life here.
Thank you very much. I think that's the only way we could interact right now is that way. Yeah, maybe another last question to Rainer and Chadong before we later come to the opening ceremony. What is your expectation for the next 12 months to come? Can Berlin entrepreneurs plan to go into China, opening business, meet each other? I want to see my colleagues. Or do you think we need to plan with another year, 2 years of remote work, Teams conferences, videos? What do you think? Or what is your expectation?
Okay, thank you. I don't think you still need to wait for so long. Actually, in business, if you really want to travel to China, doesn't matter Shanghai or other places, actually you can go. And now the embassy and also consulate all across the world now issuing business visa for foreign companies.
So no quarantine anymore?
Quarantine is still there.
Yeah.
Yeah, 7+3 up to now.
That's a lot of money for entrepreneurs.
I know. But if there's a need, business people can really go. Actually, this kind of situation started at the end of June. I think you can go maybe earlier. One of the events now, Shanghai is open for foreign business to go. That is start from November the 5th to 10th. There's a very big event called China International Import Expo, CIRE. This kind of event
is a quarantine exception?
Yeah, but we have special arrangement for participants from all over the world to participate in this kind of event. The detailed information is still, I'm waiting for that. Maybe the quarantine time will be substantially shortened after November. I know the application now is coming to our colleagues in the embassy and also consulate across the world.
Yeah, this is good news, Mr. Dr. This gives us some hope for the autumn time.
Yeah.
Rainer.
So I think what you say is right. So for us, the president of the AsiaBerlin Forum lives in Shanghai. So we are very well connected to Shanghai, and he has been twice this year already in Germany. So if you have Berlin, a German-based business, or vice versa, and then of course, and he can't afford to stay another year only in Shanghai. So he has taken the duty of 3 weeks of quarantine this spring when he came back. So if you really have to travel, you can travel, but then of course you have work remotely from the hotel, which you not always can choose on your own. So, but of course, if it's necessary to travel, you take even 3 weeks of quarantine in charge. But of course, if it's 1 week or less, it's getting more attractive. Just for visiting an event like the AsiaBerlin Summit, probably it's not. Maybe it's not yet worth to take this quarantine time just for one event. Yeah. So I hope that will change, because of course, if you for instance taking the quarantine is a long time, but I hope we will have better times maybe at the end of the year.
Yeah. So we close with a positive outlook. Let's shortly switch back to China. There is now, I'd like to get some insights from a German company, a German corporate that is affiliated to the Drivery. Give us some statements, and as well, Mr. Fang, he's the general manager of that company, so he's the CEO of this German company. And we have Colin Fu, the CEO of Sorwale. It's a startup company in the Drivery. Also gives us his perspective. I think then we have a 360-degree view on the current situation. After that, we do some ribbon cutting and some celebration. So, video start for the contributions from Chatting. This is a German
Dear honorable
company.
friends, as China General Manager of Dichtungstechnik Warstab and Schneider Group, I am very honored to be invited by the Drivery and AsiaBerlin Summit Organizing Committee to participate in this special 25th Anniversary Summit. On behalf of the DTWS Group, we wish this summit great success. Warstab and Schneider Group was born 60 years ago in Niederwinklingen, Bavaria, Germany. For the past 60 years, we have provided one of the most sensitive components for the global automotive industry and general industry. Allow me to share with you some of our development in China here. Warstab and Schneider Group began to think about China's strategic development plan a long time ago, and finally decided to build a sales company in China in 2019 and carry out in-depth research on Chinese market. Here, we not only enjoy the best services, the best tax policies, but also be surrounded by the top companies and top technology product ideas. With all-around support and services, we have formulated China's development strategy with confidence. We believe that China is not only a huge auto consumption market, but will also become one of the world's leading auto exporters. Although COVID-19 and local conflicts have brought some negative impacts on global economic development, but in China, we see nothing else but strong and stable development trends. At the end of this speech, I wish AsiaBerlin Summit a happy 25th birthday, and I wish all the friends attending the summit great achievements in Europe and China. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Fang. Virtual applause. Yeah, this is a corporate perspective, and now we listen to a startup company we are very happy to host. And they are startups company coming to us in China, looking forward to enter the European market. So they're also kind of blocked right now, waiting for the opportunity to find access into the European market. Nevertheless, they have a huge domestic market. They grow to a unicorn alone with domestic revenue right now. So it's also impressive to see how startups can grow domestically before coming to Europe. Maybe let's hear to the, it's Colin Fu, CEO of the Sorwale.
Thanks to the Drivery and ABS committee. Thank you for your invitation. It's our great honor to attend the 25th anniversary of AsiaBerlin Summit. Sorwale Technology was founded in 2016. We are an innovative startup. We have developed advanced technology on EV power electronics. We developed very high power density onboard charger and DC-DC converter. China is the world's largest and fastest developing EV market. Our customer is the new generation EV players in China. Our business is growing very fast. We set up a new R&D center in Shanghai Anti-Drivery this year. I believe we will have great synergy with Drivery and congratulate the summit. I believe it will be a great success.
So yeah, this is one of the startups, one of many waiting also on the China side to enter, come to Europe, bring the innovation. I tell you, I know the pitch decks, I have seen the technology, this is quite impressive, and we could make quite good use of it. That's my impression, and otherwise vice versa, of course. But now, is Schofield on the other line? Schofield, are you here? Yes, this is live, by the way. Little applause to Schofield. He's now remotely prepared a lot on the other side.
Hi, everyone.
Yeah, maybe Schofield, while we're preparing the ribbon for the grand opening of Drivery Shanghai, our flagship in Asia, maybe Schofield, you can give a little bit impression. How are things going right now? Are you out of quarantine? Are you networking with the crowd there, or how is it going?
Thank you so much, and good morning, everyone. Greetings from Shanghai. So thank you, Jimin, and it's my honor the information of our Driving Shanghai, and we are actually right now located in the center of the automotive ecology, Shanghai Jiading Automobile City, where there are many OEMs and suppliers, which is very convenient for cooperation and business talking. You know, since the arrival of driving in the model city, we have been able to feel the convenience brought by the strong local automobile ecology. At the same time, we have also started to build our ecology network. At present, we have recruited almost 5 startup companies and investment institutions in the automotive field to join our membership marketplace. And the co-working space that we create that has also been well received by the both our members and the market, and also the set of startups. And with our help, one of the startups successfully got a A series of financing of 50 million RMB. So today, we are honored to hold our online opening ceremony on the main stage of ABS. At the same time, we sincerely invite startups and enterprises in Berlin to join our marketplace, and we really hope to meet you guys in Shanghai one day. So thank you all for your attention. Thank you.
Yeah, now it's the big moment. We have not last minute organized a lion dance, but instead we decided for a ribbon ceremony. Someone like to dance, we can still go ahead. Yeah, let's open the Drive Shanghai together, and I have Rainer and Mr. Dong Tao with me. Yeah, let's cut the ribbon, and we can make some photos maybe before we cut. Thank you. So let's open the Drive Shanghai. Yoo-hoo!
Congratulations.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you. And thank you for the great support. Oh, picture? Yes, yes. With the ribbons and the... Yeah.
Maybe this.
Can make a tie out of it. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, with that, I think we have heard it's not easy yet. We have seen it's not easy yet, but I think there is a glimpse of hope. And I think with the Drivery, we can promote that glimpse of hope and also make the governments also support us and open the borders and make life for us. We just want to improve the world, make it a bit better, improve mobility, innovation, and that's all we want. And yeah, let's look bright into the future. And I wish you a nice rest of the day. Maybe we see you in the afternoon again for another panel at the AsiaBerlin Summit. So until then, all the best, and thank you for being with us today.
you.